there is no way he said this regarding the Edmonton Oilers' performance throughout the preseason schedule. All that and more today as we break down the last preseason game against the Vancouver Canucks here on Oilers Digest. But before we get on to the news, all the rumors, all the breakdowns, make sure to subscribe here to Oilers Digest as we are almost at 2,100 subscribers. So big things on the way for the channel as we get ready for the season and home opener on Wednesday night against the Winnipeg Jets. But without further ado, a recap of Oilers Canucks last night, of course. The game, both teams were icing a full NHL lineup, and results weren't exactly positive for the Oilers as Vancouver jumped out to a 2-0 lead in the first period and then jumped out to a 3-0 lead in the second period off a goal from Arshdeep Bains on the power play. And Bouchard broke the shutout of Artur Shilov's in the second period, but Jake DeBrusk added an empty netter to make it 4-1 for the Vancouver Canucks. The score, not exactly, positive, but lots of positives coming out of last night's game. I mean, the bottom six of Mark Henrique and Connor Brown with Vasily Podkolzin, Noah Phillip, and Corey Perry, they were, they did their job exceptionally well. Noah Phillip, I'll get to more on him later. He had a really good role there, and then Nurse and Emberson was something I was very impressed by. As you can see there from the game stat scores there, Nurse and Emberson at the top there, and of course, the bigger names towards the bottom is, the preseason. They already know they have a role on the team. It's more so trying to get your depth guys and your prospects all figured out, more so just your depth guys near the end of the preseason as you make your roster cuts. But more on Nurse and Emberson there when it comes to natural stat trick here. I mean, if there's any guy that can fix Darnell Nurse, it appears to be Ty Emberson. Very small sample size here, almost 14 minutes on the ice together. But I mean, 50% Corsi 4, and even without Emberson, Nurse had a 75% Corsi 4 percentage without. So it's very, very promising to see Darnell Nurse here on the up and up, coming back from his injury. This is only his second preseason game of the schedule, and it looks like he didn't miss a beat. I know in the Stanley Cup final and the Stanley Cup playoffs wasn't exactly his strongest, but hopefully it is a bounce back year. I know many are banking on Darnell Nurse to have a stronger year this season. And Frank Saravalli, more on Ty Emberson here, had some very positive words to say about him. He said, "I actually think he was way more offense to provide. I wouldn't classify him as a defensive defenseman. This is someone who could probably pile up points in a pinch and at even strength. Should be able to get a number of pucks on net. When you look at his shots on net per 60, they would have been third on the Oilers last year amongst defensemen, which is big news. I mean, all the Oiler defensemen last year, Kulak, Ceci, Ekholm, Bouchard, even Broberg there for a small sample size. But to have Emberson, you would have been third. Nothing more you could ask from the guy. And then also, Noah Phillip here from Bob Stauffer. He was his biggest surprise in coming into the preseason. I thought Noah Phillip wasn't going to be, this exceptional, but here we are. He created 5-on-5 scoring chances in every game, finished 56% in the faceoff circle, won some pretty big faceoffs throughout the preseason. He was second amongst forwards in hits, supported the puck defensively, and he's a 6'3" right shot center. He will play NHL games this season. If anything, he's won the fourth line center role, in my opinion, taking over Derek Ryan. I mean, he can slot Derek Ryan in, throughout the NHL, the Oilers schedule there, you can put him in at fourth line center, but to start the season, Noah Phillip with Podkolzin and Perry, I think that is a bona fide fourth line for the Oilers, and that is something they need. And when it comes to, making the best of a bad situation, losing Broberg and Holloway in that combined offer sheet deal, they had to do something about Cody Ceci at some point in the season. It's a lot easier to do it now in a crew cap space as opposed to being held over a barrel. The fact that he, being Ty Emberson, played for Kris Knoblauch in Hartford not long ago. This is a really good curated selection and a guy on a bad team that has more to give. So, again, coming from the preseason schedule, not the best results for the Oilers, on the score sheet. But when it comes to, evaluating their new additions there with Ty Emberson and Noah Phillip, I mean, it's big news for the Oilers heading into the season, going from one end of the spectrum of the Edmonton media with Frank Saravalli and Bob Stauffer to the opposite end of the spectrum with Mark Spector. And kind of, creating sort of a cloud of doom over the Oilers heading into this year's season. He said the Oilers are 40 minutes of this tepid brand of hockey from starting their season under a cloud of doubt. Of course, this was after the first period when they went down 2-0 to Vancouver. They looked poor, and they have looked like this for most of the preseason. Nowhere close to good enough for a team that vows a fast start. And if you've been an Oilers fan for a while, the Oilers, they've always had a problem of starting off slow. Especially with last year, not just, on the schedule, but in games, they would always go down, a goal early, and they'd work their way back, but that's just a mentality thing. It's not so much, something you can, build in the team. They've been known to be very resilient throughout the years, and there's no reason why they wouldn't be this year. Just looking at the preseason schedule from this year, of course, again, not exactly the strongest results there. Going 3-5-0 with, the 3 wins against Winnipeg, Seattle, in Vancouver in the shootout. I mean, the Seattle and Vancouver games, those were very impressive, especially the one against Seattle. That one sort of cemented Noah Phillip as that fourth-line center, in my opinion. And then there's also a very strong game from Troy Stecher and Travis Dermott, which would provide the Oilers with some depth on the blue line. But when it comes to the preseason, I mean, it's not exactly that important. Just going in prior years, here's 2010, their first year with Taylor Hall, had a somewhat decent preseason, and then went into, the season and got another first overall pick in Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. And then there's 2018, when they went 7-1-0. That was the emergence of Ty Rattie in the preseason. And again, missed the playoffs that year, and that ended with a Connor McDavid injury against the Calgary Flames in the last game of the season, so not exactly a very promising year. And then lastly, last year, going 5-2-1 with 3 straight wins to end off the preseason, heading into the regular season, and then we all know what happened to start the year. So the preseason, don't put much stock into it, except for, evaluating the upcoming Oiler prospects in depth, guys. Their new acquisitions like Arvidsson, Jeff Skinner, see how they do with the Oilers. But to say, hey, I'm gonna have some doubt again against this team heading into the season, you are just wasting your own time. Give it a few weeks, give it a few months. American Thanksgiving is normally the litmus test for who's going to make the playoffs. Last year was an outlier with the Oilers, but folks, let's just give it a rest. And even Kris Knoblauch is going, he's saying, I know it's a big change going from playing in a Stanley Cup Final Game 7 to exhibition, and I think guys' hearts are in it, but it's just not quite the same. Understandably, now we're hitting the regular season, and we need to pick it up. So Kris Knoblauch, he's not worried, so why should the rest of us be? They're just working their way back into it. Of course, McDavid, Draisaitl, all the big names, they're still coming off the shortest summer of the Oilers, organizational history, because the last game 7, was June 24th, I believe, and it is now October 5th. So a very, very short turnaround, coming from Game 7 to exhibition. But we are getting all set for Wednesday against the Winnipeg Jets. We will have it for you right here on Oilers Digest. This is it for today's video. Have yourselves a fantastic day and a great weekend. I'm Matt.